You've seen the murder. You've seen the protests and attacks against civilians. You've heard the chatter about the Insurrection Act. Do you know what that means and what to do when it's called, and how civil unrest and martial law collide? Listen to hear what it all means. Hi, I'm the Urban Lady Prepper. I help single moms and solo women with practical emergency preparedness. But of course, all are welcome to become better prepared for whatever happens next. You've seen the murder, you've seen the protests and attacks against civilians. You've heard the chatter about the Insurrection Act. More noise in a world that feels like it's getting louder and more chaotic every day. I started looking at two distinct ideas, civil unrest and martial law, both of which I've addressed in separate episodes in the past. And when I put them together, a chilling pattern took shape. A pattern that shows just how quickly the streets you walk on become a stage for military authority. And it can happen faster than you'd ever think, as we're seeing now. This isn't some back alley conspiracy theory. It's a documented process that is unfolding right in front of our eyes. I'm going to explain exactly how the pieces fit together. This isn't about scaring you, if you aren't already. It's about understanding the board, because when things feel unstable, knowledge is the one thing that can't be taken away. First, the anatomy of modern civil unrest. Let's get on the same page about what civil unrest actually means. It can be anything from a peaceful march to a city in flames. But what we're seeing more and more is a very specific formula. Government or authority overreach, sparking a real public anger, supercharged by social media, and hijacked by those who refuse to follow the law and our Constitution, which has ended up defining the entire story. It almost always starts with a legitimate grievance, invasions of cities by our military under false pretenses, a controversial shooting, a political firestorm, or a brutal economic downturn. Or, in our case in America, a combination of all of those. A protest gets organized, thousands show up, and for a while, it's exactly what you'd imagine. Signs, chants, and people demanding to be heard. But then, something flips. It's no longer a protest. It's now a riot, an unlawful assembly, or, and in the dry language of government papers, a domestic disturbance. This is the first crucial step in the pattern. The action of a group of people are used to brand everyone present, and the media, whether it means to or not, blasts the most chaotic images across every screen. This creates a powerful public perception that things are spiraling out of control, or that it's suppressed to favor the government and prevent other cities from getting any ideas or people from realizing how far things have gone. It manufactures fear and anger, and that is what's used to justify everything that comes next. The authorities, or in America, our government, will say that they were left with no choice, that their enforcers or the authorities were just overwhelmed. Whether that's even true in a given situation almost becomes irrelevant. What matters is that this exact scenario, civilian authority being labeled ineffective, is the legal and political key that unlocks the door to a completely different set of rules. This isn't ancient history. This playbook has been pulled out for everything from labor disputes to civil rights protests all throughout American history up until right now. So what happens when that door gets unlocked? We step into the world of emergency powers, specifically two things you've probably heard of but might not fully grasp: martial law and the Insurrection Act. Let's break them down. Martial law, simply, is the temporary replacement of civilian government with military authority. It's supposedly a last resort, justified only when the civilian government has completely broken down. When it's declared, a military commander can be given virtually unlimited power to make and enforce laws in a certain area. While there isn't a single universally agreed upon statistic, historical analysis shows martial law has been declared dozens of times in the U.S. for reasons ranging from riots to labor disputes to natural disasters. Sometimes this means the military is just assisting civilian police. Think of the National Guard helping with crowd control. But in its most extreme form, and we're seeing it at an unprecedented level right now, the military replaces civilian authority entirely. Local police are sidelined. Local courts can be shut down. Suddenly, you're not under civilian jurisdiction anymore. You're under military rule. The legal tool most often talked about for putting federal troops on American streets is the Insurrection Act. It's an amalgamation of different statutes first enacted by Congress way back in the 1790s. This law gives the President of the United States the authority to deploy the military inside the country to suppress a rebellion, deal with domestic violence, or when it's deemed impossible to enforce federal laws through normal means. Now, here's the kicker. While modern consensus and practice has favored presidents acting only when a government requests help, the law contains dangerously vague language that's being abused right now. Terms like insurrection and unlawful obstruction aren't clearly defined. This ambiguity grants the executive branch a frightening amount of discretion in deciding when a protest crosses the line. Crucially, though, invoking the Insurrection Act is not the same as declaring martial law. The act allows the military to assist civilian authorities in enforcing the law, not to replace them. Think of it as a step toward military involvement, but a step short of total military takeover. This is where the two threads, a protest supposedly spiraling out of control and the government's playbook, can merge into a shockingly efficient process. This is the pattern. It starts with a protest that escalates, or is at least portrayed as escalating, to the point where civilian police are seen as overwhelmed. That's trigger number one. This perception of chaos creates intense political pressure for someone to do something and restore order. Usually, a mayor or governor might declare a state of emergency, bringing in curfews and restricting movement. We've seen this before. The current situation in the U.S., however, has turned the normal process on its head. And if the unrest continues, especially if it allegedly involves federal property or laws, the White House might decide to step in. The president, using the broad and fuzzy language of the Insurrection Act, could declare that the situation is an unlawful obstruction that prevents the enforcement of federal law. That's trigger number two. And not for nothing, many people, such as myself, have warned that our current president has been itching to initiate it. Once the Insurrection Act is invoked, federal troops or a federalized National Guard can be on the ground in a matter of hours. And the moment they arrive, the entire landscape of your rights changes. The military's primary mission isn't de-escalation, it's to establish control and follow orders. While it's not technically martial law, the presence of soldiers performing law enforcement duties creates a reality that feels just like it. Civil liberties you take for granted can be put on hold. Freedom of assembly? Forget it, no more protests. Freedom of the press could be limited through censorship. Authorities can enforce strict curfews, restrict your ability to travel, and potentially suspend the rights of habeas corpus, meaning people could be detained without being formally charged or seeing a judge. This is a devastating efficiency of the pattern, an upsetting event, a protest amplified by regular media and social media, leading to violence. Those acts are used to declare civilian authority ineffective, and that declaration triggers a state of emergency. Continued defiance can then trigger the Insurrection Act, and the arrival of troops, even without a formal declaration of martial law, can lead to the suspension of constitutional rights, all under the banner of restoring order. Each step logically follows the last, creating a rapid slide from protest to military control. And because it happens under the color of law, it's not presented as a power grab, but as a necessary response to chaos. Even though we Americans, at least most of us anyway with a clue, recognize that what we're dealing with now is exactly that. This isn't just a legal debate, it has a very real, very human cost. History gives us a chilling preview of what this looks like for the person on the street. When General Andrew Jackson declared martial law in New Orleans in 1814, he imposed strict curfews, censored the press, and even arrested a Louisiana state senator and a U.S. federal judge who dared to question his authority. Sound familiar, my fellow Americans? During the Colorado Coalfield War in 1914, martial law was declared amid violent strikes by miners. After a horrific massacre of women and children by militia, federal troops were sent in, not to protect the workers, but to crush the labor movement. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the territory of Hawaii was placed under martial law for nearly 3 years. Civilian courts were largely replaced by military tribunals, and civilians were tried by soldiers. The press was censored, property was seized, and over 1,000 Japanese Americans were interned without trial. In every one of these cases, the story is the same. The military, acting in place of the civilian government, suspends rights to achieve an objective, whether it's winning a battle, breaking a strike, or suppressing a political movement. The excuse is always necessity and the restoration of order, but the result is always the loss of freedom. Your right to speak, to gather, to be secure in your home, to face your accuser in a civilian court, all of it can be swept away. And they're working on that, believe it. No one is safe. So, what's the point of all this? It's not to sit here and tell you that martial law is coming next Tuesday. Although at this point, who knows? It's to understand the process. It's a mechanism, a sequence of events and legal justifications that is built directly into our system, and to be prepared for it. The line between a protest and an insurrection is dangerously blurry, and the power to define it is concentrated in the hands of the executive branch. The tools to enforce that definition, the Insurrection Act and the extraordinary powers of martial law, are real, they're powerful, and they've been used before. Understanding this pattern isn't about promoting paranoia, it's about promoting vigilance. It's about recognizing how fast a situation can be spun out of control and how easily our rights can be traded away for the promise of security. The best defense we have is to be an informed, engaged public that actually understands the rules of the game. We have to demand clear lines and real accountability for these emergency powers, especially when we believe those in power are not playing by the rules. Because the moment you hear the words, "for your own safety," you should always ask, what is the price? For more information on both civil unrest and martial law, check out my channel, which has an episode on each and what to do. If you found this information valuable, please consider sharing, liking, and subscribing to the channel. Rest in peace, Renee Nicole Good. Thanks for listening, and be careful out there. Until next time, this is the Urban Lady Prepper signing off. I'm sure I've given you some things to think about as you go through the upcoming week. If this episode has resonated with you, please like, follow, subscribe, and leave a review. To help support my work, please pop me a super thanks on YouTube or donate using the methods in the description. Visit my website at urbanladyprepper.com for playable blogs and additional information. I appreciate your time with me. Stay safe, stay sharp, and be ready.